What's good? My name is Charity Croft. It's Christmas time! But why this time? I mean, I'm sure you already know December 25th has nothing to do with Jesus' birthday. According to the Bible, he was born sometime between spring and early October, but it was absolutely not December 25th. So then what is the reason for the season? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's most likely because in the year 336, the Roman Emperor Constantine was trying to do away with paganism and really make Christianity a thing. Well, at that time, the biggest ancient festival was something called Saturnalia. This was a festival celebrating the god Saturn that lasted a little over a week starting on December 17th. The ancient Romans chose this time to celebrate Saturn because it was during winter solstice, which is when the sun is in a very specific position in the sky. Now, we won't get too far into that, but listen, once you learn why Saturday is named after Saturn and why Sunday is named after the sun, and notice how most religious activities take place on one of those 2 days, a lot of things will start making sense to you. Anyway, so Constantine thought, since everybody's already celebrating at this time, I can just make this the day that we celebrate Jesus, and the whole world can make a much easier transition to Christianity. You gotta realize that at this time, most people worshipped multiple deities and were so-called pagans. Well, since Constantine and the Council of Nicaea were hell-bent on making Christianity the most powerful religion on earth, they just slapped their holidays on top of pagan holidays so the people could convert easier. Side note, the reason why Easter is always celebrated on a different day every year is because it's always the Sunday after the first full moon of the vernal equinox. Super pagan, nothing to do with Jesus' resurrection, nothing. Anywho, Christmas trees were used to decorate Saturnian temples. Mistletoe was used by ancient druids because they believe it had mystical powers. And presents were given during winter solstice to celebrate the spring to come. Pagan, pagan, pagan! And you ain't even know it. So pagan, in fact, that Christmas was outlawed in the New World when the Puritans first got here because they knew how pagan it was. It didn't become okay till the 1680s when they realized that gift giving could be profitable. Speaking of pagan, what does that word even mean? Like, why do we act like pagan means devil worshiper? The actual definition of pagan is any person holding religious beliefs other than the main world religions. So in other words, anybody who is not Christian or Muslim. Words like that is how Christianity was able to take over the entire planet by creating a bad word for people who didn't convert. He is pagan! Kill him! Back to Christmas. Who is this guy? Well, it's Santa Claus. He's actually based off a real person named Saint Nicholas, but you probably knew that already. But did you know that Saint Nick was a bishop in the Church of Turkey? He anonymously gave 3 bags of gold to a poor family, and after that everybody just made up this legend about anonymous gifts coming from a guy named St. Nicholas, and Santa Claus was born. And now he lives in the North Pole even though he's from the Middle East. So that means that originally Santa Claus's gift giving was a noble act of helping the poor. But in the 1800s, companies found that it was far more profitable to make it about little kids, because of course people buy gifts for kids before they buy them for poor people, and so companies like Macy's started using Santa's name to make Christmas into a corporate capitalist fiasco. But here is the biggest point of this video. In America alone, we spend more than $465 billion on Christmas presents every year. Those are gifts for one day, $465 billion. Well, check this out. According to Charity Water, you can buy a well for $5,000 that will provide water for 250 people for 20 years. And according to Feed the Children, you can buy a meal for 300 people for $120. So if you do the math, $120 times 3 meals a day times 365 days a year, then add in the cost of the water well, you could provide 300 starving people with food and water for a whole year with only $136,400. So if we take that $465 billion we spend, we could feed 1,020,000,000 people for a year. Well, it gets crazier. According to World Food Programme's hunger statistics, there are only 795 million starving people on Earth. So that means with the money America alone spends on one Christmas, we can literally end world hunger for a year. Now let's take that one step further. If we just did away with the entire gift-giving part of Christmas, and every year we use the same money that we would have spent on presents to instead feed the poor, there would be no such thing as hunger, and the entire world would have food. Merry Christmas. I love you.
Shalom, Israel. Once again, you know, praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the apostles of Israel, our elder brother, holding it down with the apostle, you know, and all the actions on the room, to teaching this gospel and sincerity and truth, you know. We coming live again with another open forum series. You know what I'm saying? Inspiration from Brother MD. You know what I'm saying? So we just want to get into a little series. This much, right? Like you will go through, brother.
Yeah. So like the brother said, it's basically an open forum, but we're gonna start off with Christmas. You know, in 3 weeks. And December 25th is going to be a pagan holiday that the world known as Christmas. And I think I was watching, I'm going to put in the beginning of the video. I was watching a video where this guy was explaining how if we get rid of Christmas, if we get rid of all the giving gifts, and save money, and give it to the poor, the world would be less poor, you know? There'd be less vagrants off the streets. But I'm going to put that video in the beginning, and then, you know. So I'm going to start off with the lesson. And double big up to my Abba. He's the one that, you know, taught us the truth, and he's the one that gave this lesson to me, right?
All GMS camps.
Yeah, I think Brother Pagan, he's brother responsible for bringing this truth in the island of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, I don't want to go off track, you know, but even though, you know, those brothers who don't want to say unto the brother, but you know, you niggas just going on. That's all I can say. You niggas going.
Yeah.
You niggas going on.
Full on
Like I said, thou shalt not must live off the truck. The laborer is worthy of his wages. Well,
Yeah, so I'm going to start it off. It says, is Christmas pagan? Due to celebration of December 25th, the Christmas tree, the giving of gifts, and other Christian traditions all have their root in the pagan mystery religions of the ancient Middle East? Or is all of this stuff about a pagan Christmas just a bunch of bullcrap? Well, the truth might surprise you as you read this. Please keep an open mind. Christmas is undoubtedly a lot of fun. Perhaps once you find out about the origin of Christmas, you will look at the holiday differently. After all, the holiday celebrated on December 25th, and all of the associated traditions were originally designed to worship pagan gods. Is that something that the believers should be associated with? So, basically, once you're enlightened, once you find out what Christmas is about and the evil behind Christmas, you're not going to celebrate that like how you used to. I mean, there's some niggas that got a stumbling block. They will still celebrate Christmas on December 25th, you know. But you know, the ones that will get it. Someone give me Amos chapter 3 verse 7. If you're an elect, you will get this knowledge. And when you see Christmas, when you see the word Christmas in the Bible, where you see Yahushua, as the world so-called, they know him as Jesus. Where you see the scripture know him as Jesus, as Christmas. Where do you see a scripture of him celebrating Christmas? You don't see that in the Bible. Go ahead.
This is Amos chapter 3, verse 7. Surely Yahweh power will do nothing, but to reveal the secrets unto his servants the prophets.
So he revealed it to the servants of prophets, starting off with the elders, the apostles, and going down. Right? He revealed it to us. And we're hoping that we're elect. We're hoping that we get delivered in his chariots. Right? You know. So I'll continue. It says, have you ever thought about why people celebrate a holiday called Christmas? After all, the word Christmas is not found anywhere in the Bible. Not only that, but there is also absolutely no mention of December 25th in the Bible. Yeah, all those months, all those days, from Monday to Sunday, that's not in the Bible. That's all pagan. Right? That comes from the gods. Alright? It says, we know that Yahushua was not even born during the winter, since the shepherds were still out with their flocks at night when he was born. So where in the world did this holiday come from? So we know that it's no Christmas about. We know it's not that Yahushua was born December 25th, because that can't be proved through the Bible. And if it's not proved in the Bible, if it's not proved through the Bible, then it's not accurate. It says the first Christmas did not celebrate. The first Christians did not celebrate Christmas. In fact, Christmas did not become an official Christian holiday until the middle of the 4th century. But December 25th was celebrated as a major pagan holiday for centuries, and centuries long before Yahushua was born. It was a very dark occult festival that celebrated the birthday of the sun god in all his various forms. Unfortunately, most Christians have never learned about the pagan origin of Christmas. Most Christians seem to believe that the history of Christmas began when Yahushua was born, but that is not the truth at all. As you read below, Yahweh established an entirely different holiday that you can find in the Bible for the birthday of Yahushua. But instead, the Roman Catholic religion latched on to the birthday of the sun god and married to the birthday of Mashiach. The birthday of the sun god can be traced all the way back to ancient Babylon. In fact, most of our modern Christian traditions can be traced all the way back to ancient Babylon. Unfortunately, most Christians simply do not care. Most Christians love Christmas and would never give up no matter what they learn about. Most Christians are going to believe what they want to believe, no matter what you tell them. If you are curious about the real history of Christmas, read on, but be warned, it may spoil the Christmas holiday. So someone give me a Ecclesiastes when it says there's nothing new under the sun. Because it's showing you how that Christmas originated from ancient Babylon. And America will be today known as the modern day Babylon.
That's right.
So there's nothing new under the sun.
Ecclesiastes 1:9, the thing that had been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done, is that which should be done. And there is no new thing under the sun.
Yeah, you can speak if you want.
Yeah, you know when Christmas time coming around, like you used to say, all the mistletoe.
No, that's true.
That mistletoe, you still hand people on that.
No, that's true.
Understand? Now we used to do people, I mean, we say, I will kiss you under the mistletoe. Me? You go and have people and kill people on that. Understand?
Yeah. And right here it says, Odin, the Norse god of winter, would decide who would prosper or perish in the coming years. So what does that sound like? That sounds like Santa Claus. Because it says here, he would decide who would perish, he would prosper or perish in the coming year. Isn't that what Santa Claus does?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a naughty list of who would give gifts, who would give gifts and who wouldn't? That shows you, Santa Claus said he comes from Odin. And I think in the Marvel movies, in the Dora movies, they have Odin. But I mean, that's not really Odin, but they adapted that character from mythology. But they still have, that's still kind of like, you know, you can explain this.
Yeah, they don't learn from the Greeks. Yeah. They just adapted it, put their own stories, put their own twists. It comes from Greeks, right? They just put their own twist. They adapted the story and made it their own. But it comes from the Greeks.
Oh, that's right. It says,
No, the Vikings actually. The Vikings. That's the Vikings.
In his classic work, The Two Babylons, author Alexander Hyssop explained that the Christian holiday of Christmas did not exist until hundreds of years after the time of Jesus. So if it's really about Yahushua's birthday, then how come it didn't exist until 100 years after the time of Yahushua? So that shows you that the Israelites, they weren't celebrating Christmas. Because it didn't come until hundreds of years later. Christmas didn't come around when Yahushua was born. And so that's all BS. Alright? It says, indeed, it is admitted by the most learned and candid writers of all parties that the day of our Lord's birth cannot be determined, and that within the Christian church, no such festival as Christmas was ever heard of till the 3rd century. And not until the 4th century was far advanced did it gain much observance. How then the Roman Church fixed on December 25th as Christian's Day? Why thus? Long before the 4th century and long before the Christian era itself, a festival was celebrated among the heathen at that precise time of the year in honor of the birth of the son of the Babylonian queen of heaven. And it may fairly presume, in order to consolate the heathen and to swell the number of the nominal adherents of Christianity, the same festival was adopted by the Roman Church, giving it the name of Mashiach. The tendency on the part of Christians to meet paganism halfway was very early developed. Alright, continuing says, in fact, Hyslop. Yeah, go ahead, Al.
You know, as the brother saying, that wasn't celebrated, that was long journey after now trying to come, right? Because there's a lot small piece of this to 22 and you know 16 to 16, right? He said, 3 times in a year shall all thy maids appear before the Lord, thy power, in the place which he shall choose in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before your hour empty. I ain't seen in the feast of Christmas anymore. So, with the brother stated, again, like always say, the wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, spiritual fornication. You understand?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because a lot of Israelites going off into this false doctrine.
That's right. Yeah, so continuing on this document here.